Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, welcome to episode 71 of the Brewgooders Dynamic Duo Beer Comics. Um, I'm Jeff, this is Colin. This is our first podcast of the new year. So this is the third year that we've been, I don't know how that works. I was thinking about that earlier. You know, like when they say like Kylie Minogue is the only she's the only female artist to have a number one album in like five separate decades.
Hmm.
Um, we've operated in three different years, even though we're like less than 2 years old because we started in 2008. I knew what I meant. We've had a podcast in 2019, 20, and 21 is what I meant.
But only
Um,
just 21.
only just. Yeah, so standard talk about beer and comics and all that sort of stuff. If you're watching, I'm going to do a bunch of sharing just now, but if you're watching, please drop a like at the corner so that we can say hi and stuff. That'd be awesome. Um, yeah, what are we going to be talking about tonight, Colin?
So just a review show tonight. What we've been reading over, kind of our little break at Christmas time. Whatever beers we've got,
Yeah,
and as well. No guests tonight, but we are lining up some stellar guests over the next few weeks.
well, it's been great. Like the amount of folk that have got in touch and stuff in the last couple of weeks has been brilliant. This yeah, the time of year that allows people to just stop and take stock of what they're doing. And this happened last year, I remember as well. We got loads of folk last year that came out and said they wanted to chat to us and stuff. So um, we're in a much better position this year, like than we were last year, to have interviews and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to being able to meet new folk and chat to new folk. Is there anybody that we can talk about it now? Like
Probably not
top of
right
it?
at the moment in time, but we have got some. We're in talks with some people, and
We're
I
in
think
talk.
we do have somebody lined up for next week. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll introduce them sometime through the week. We'll post up on Facebook and stuff earlier this week once it's confirmed and everything.
Fair enough. Um, cool. What comics do you have today, Colin? Sorry, I'm stalling so we can share that stuff on Facebook.
Well, everybody's been talking about this comic, or this book, graphic novel, really. Blue and Green, written by Ram V,
Yeah.
by Anand RK. It's been getting rave reviews, and a lot of people have voted it their comic of the year. And it might have been in the running for our comic of the year if I'd read it earlier. but, but there you
Um,
go. Um,
well,
so,
Ravi's a favourite of both of ours, isn't he? You've met
well,
him.
we've,
Yeah.
we've read his books before. We've reviewed These Savage Shores. I certainly want
Yeah.
to read more of his books. That's for sure. I'd be really interested to see some of his superhero stuff. He's been doing Catwoman.
Yeah, I read he did a really good short story for Marvel last year. I enjoyed as well. Yeah, I know he's done other stuff. Like you said, he's doing Catwoman. He's
Yeah,
doing other stuff, but
I think he's doing Swamp Thing as well. I feel like.
that's totally his jam.
Mm.
Yes. Cool. What beer are you drinking?
Well, I picked this up at the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant. It's from Brew York. It's a rhubarb milkshake pale called Rhubarbra Streisand.
Who's who's that by? Did you say?
Brew York.
New York. Yeah, I've seen that can loads of times, and I've gone and got something. I don't know why I've went and got other things, but yeah, definitely. New York. I've got that jamming. Like that, I love their branding and their
Yeah, the names that come up with their beers are just.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm trying to think what we have had them on the show before. I was stalling to try and remember what it's called. The guys at Butcher Queen, our esteemed guests from last year, are saying hi. So
Oh,
that's really nice. Um, that just looks really cool on a screen. Yeah, awesome. I'm drinking. This is a Williams brother number, so it's been sat out in in Scotland at the moment. As imagined in most places in the world, we've got that really amazing weather where you can put your beer outside, and uh, so that's been sat outside for about a week. It's called Choca Blocker. It's a mocha stout from Williams Brothers, which is it's not really a craft beer, is it? It's a
Yeah,
It's
fairly supermarket type beer.
I think I probably got this from like Aldi's or something.
Aye.
But they're brewed and canned in Iowa, which isn't they're still local, even though they've
Local,
even got
let's face it. Yeah, they do a lot of pale ales and stuff.
yeah.
So that's a different one, being a mocha stout. Yeah,
I've
interesting.
not, it's
See what
quite
that's like.
it's okay. It's just quite complicated in terms of like what I like. It's what I associate with Williams Brothers. I was quite interested to see what this would be like because, like you say, they do pale ales and stuff that I imagine is quite easy to brew. But this one is a bit more complex. I would have thought it's good though. It's really good actually. For like £1.20 or whatever it cost me.
Yeah.
David Crana of Glass City Comics has said hi as well and Happy New Year, and that's lovely. Yeah. So, have you opened your beer? Have you drank your beer? What's happening?
I've cracked this one open. I'll tell you a wee bit about it if you like. So, as the name suggests, rhubarb flavour in there. So it's got that sweetness, but that sourness as well that you get from actual rhubarb. It's a decent sort of, pale ale. It's got that sweetness, but then that sourness. So it's got that slightly, soury flavour. Not a strong sour though, and it goes quite quickly, leaving the pale ale sort of aftertaste, and a wee bit of the rhubarb lingers there. I think you get the rhubarb hit initially. It does have that, those rhubarb and custard sweets that you get.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that. It's not as sweet as that, because it's a bit, but it's got
somebody
that.
that does like a rhubarb and custard sour. I'm sure we've done that before.
I've seen one like that before. It's quite creamy. I'm quite enjoying this. I don't know how much this was. It's only about 5.5%, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure how much I paid for it because it was a wee while ago, but quite enjoyable.
I'm trying to think. Brew York's about a £5. I would say it was in that sort of £4 to £5 in there kind of area. Good premium beer, I think. Rob's comment on the fact that I was able to keep my beer outside for a week, free of intrusion from neighbours. But
there's Rob Price commenting there. So Rob is going to be on the show sometime in the future.
Awesome, I'm excited. Hi Rob. I've got loads of beer out in my back garden just now. I've got this keg. I got a keg of there's 10. Now I won't be there anymore because folk will go out and for the folk that came where I stay, I've got back garden beer now. I got this keg from Beat Bruton, like one of the mini kegs. It's like a 3-litre keg, and I thought, this will be great for New Year. And I've still got it because it's Imperial Stout and it's like 10.7%, and it's got Dance of the Stars. It's really nice, but I'm struggling through it because it's so strong.
Well, I've got this bottle of 11% Christmas ale, which my son got from somebody at work, which we haven't cracked open yet. It's a big bottle. It's like, 750ml bottle. 11%. It's a wee bit high for me. It's probably a sharer at some point.
Good. Look forward to that. When we get back to sharing beers, this one's good. Like this, I don't know. I might try and get this, and if we do, remember before when we used to do kind of like stouty episode where we did episodes where we focus on one beer. I think that this is a sharer. I think you would struggle if I gave you this stout and gave you maybe even like a Tiny Rebel novelty stout. You would maybe find it quite difficult to tell apart. It's 4.8, so it's quite light. But I mean, I don't think that cost me more than a couple of quid, did it? It's 500 mils, and it's all right. I would think that was a premium beer. So that's
good. Well, I believe I've seen that in the shops, and haven't tried it. I'm just looking at the can art on this one, and there's our Barbara Streisand there.
Their can art's great.
Can art is great, yeah. I mean, let's face it. the designs and all other beers have these names that kind of tie in with something, a bit of music, a character, a movie,
Yeah.
or that kind of thing.
I'm trying to think, what was the one we had for I'm sure we had one of their beers when we did the movie episode.
I think we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. We did.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Wasn't that the Was it the
No,
Amity?
Amity was Gypsy
No,
Hill.
that's Gypsy Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to annoy me. Yeah, that'll annoy me, and I'll shout it out later on. Cool. Comics. You said you're going to do your Ran one.
Yeah.
Did you get much comics read over the Christmas break?
Oh God, loads. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me just run through them quickly. Shift 2 was in the shop.
I couldn't find it. I went up. I think you probably got the only copy in Dunfermline.
No, there were 3 copies in Dunfermline in the supermarket. WH Smith.
Oh, well, there was none when I went.
Well hidden. They were very well hidden. They were hidden behind the Viz, and it took me. I didn't think they had any, and I had a rake, and there was a bunch of Viz comics in front of it, and I actually moved some of the shifted it to one side so folk could actually see it. So
that's why I went up, and I remember you saying about the Viz before, so I went up and looked behind the Viz, and they weren't even there. So I think I was just maybe a couple of days too late.
That was good. The stories continue. The slight disappointing bit is it doesn't have the gatefold part that issue 1 had, and I don't think it's got the AR stuff that was in one of the stories, the augmented reality thing. However, it's good, solid stuff. Enjoyed that. I also got issue 4 of the 77. So that's continuing. Again, continuations of stories. A couple of new ones in there as well, some one-offs. Something that's just a bit odd about it was that a couple of the ongoing stories were like just 2 or 3 page bits of them instead of the kind of 5 or 6, 7 pages, which just kind of fell a little flat with me, I have to say. Don't know what was going on. Maybe it was just, they maybe wanted to fit in other stories into that issue. Because I know
maybe we have a forum to ask them later on.
Yeah,
maybe if we had
a chance. So I do know that some of the stories are going to end, and new stories are coming in. So maybe it's just one of these odd issues where things don't quite fit. So they've
like a transition.
Possibly. So that was an odd one. What else have I been reading? A couple of months ago, I talked about Lock and Key in Pale Battalions Go. So this is a short. It was billed as a 2-parter, but it turned out to be a 3-parter. So set in the Lock and Key world, but set in the past during World War One. So I did talk about this before. So that's finished now. I presume there might be a kind of little trade, collected edition of that. That's a good look out. I really enjoyed that one. And that's where one of the inhabitants of Key House going to war in Belgium during World War One, and anyway, using the keys for good and bad. Let's just say. What else did I get? Also through the post, History of Comics is out. So this is the first one they're doing, 1984. So this is this huge undertaking to do a book about 100 years of comics, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, I did see that I did see that on the shelves. Actually, I wish I'd grabbed that, but then.
So 1984 is the first year. So in there we've got things like what came out in '84.
Ninja Turtles.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Ninja Turtles. Alan Moore and Ian Gibson's Ballad of Halo Jones in 2000 AD. What else did we have? Secret Wars was Marvel.
Of course, yeah. Which is going to be a series soon.
Yeah.
You see that was announced as one of the shows.
Yep. And in the UK, we had Scream, which was the British horror comic, which is one of my favourites.
Oh,
I still have all my copies of Scream from '84. It was only lasted 15 issues. And so there's a big article about it in the magazine. And if any of you are leafing through the magazine at any point, you might just get to page number 14 and recognise somebody here.
That's amazing, man.
Because they were asking for people to send in pictures of themselves with their 1984 issue comics, and I just so happened to have my Scream number 1 to hand. So you see my going on.
That's amazing.
There'll be loads of folk cutting that out, to put on the wall. There are loads of issues of this with that bit just cut out. Right, what else have I been reading? Well, let me just tell you about this I picked up. I'll review it in future weeks. AWA.
Yeah.
We've reviewed Hotel from them before and a couple of other books.
And who gave us a row via email. That's still one of my favourite moments of last year.
It didn't give out. They said that they were offering the resistance. If
we asked instead of going straight to our talents, did they not? I was chuffed. It felt like a wee slap on the wrist.
I think you just misread it.
I think I probably did.
Anyway, so I will review this one in the future. This is The Resistance, which is about a pandemic and a virus and superheroes. And it's written by the guy who wrote Babylon 5. So that's a future review. Okay. Amazing. I have read many, many more comics.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the one that I'm going to talk about today is Blue and Green. So this is published by Image. It's graphic novel rather than series or collected edition. So this came out, I don't know, 3 or 4 months back, and suddenly became everybody's favourite comic or book at the time. What is it? It's a story about a musician called Eric Dieter. He teaches saxophone lessons at a kind of college or something. And he goes to his mother dies and he goes to a funeral, but he's been kind of estranged from his mother for years. He goes to the funeral and ends up staying in her house along with a few other people that were at the funeral, and he comes across this photograph of a jazz musician from the 60s, and he becomes intrigued about who this person is, and goes on a kind of a journey to discover who this person was, because it could be a relation, for example.
Yeah.
And some kind of slightly supernatural stuff happens. He discovers he discovers this person in the house who he describes as the Pale Man, a sort of ghostly, spindly man. And when he meets him, he kind of loses his mind a bit, which only increases the mystery around this musician in this picture. So he kind of goes to find out who this person is, goes and talks to people that knew his mother. His mother worked in bars and clubs in the past and stuff. So, but what makes this really special, I think, is mostly the artwork. I mean, the story's good. Let's face it, the story is good, but the artwork is incredible. So you've got sequences that look like this. So anybody that's listening in, sorry, but anybody that can watch, you get sequences like this, which kind of, from time to time, kind of mimic maybe how you would visualize music. So it's a real kind of amazing set of artwork that kind of shows different aspects of the story in different ways. So you have these sort of collage type sequences, which is usually when he's having a kind of nightmarish sort of time and he's having mental health issues. And then in between chapters, you've got these kind of sections which kind of mimic, I suppose, visually maybe jazz music, the type of music story. So artwork is just fantastic. The layouts, the colours, everything about it kind of mimics what's happening in the story. If it's dark, then there's dark colours. If it's a revelation, then there's different colours, and it's just an incredible piece of artwork. And here's just a point here where he comes into contact with the Pale Man, and everything's kind of shattering around him. The whole panel system of the comics is breaking as this kind of mind shatters as well. So it is really an awesome book. The story is great. but it's definitely the artwork. So, big kudos to Anand RK, the artist on there. We also did Graffiti's Wall with Ram V as well. Just that artwork is just amazing. Even the cover, is you can see it's a record, and the logo for the book is kind of a stylized musical note as well. So everything beautifully put together.
I know I've not got much to go on. I always remember These Savage Shores because you let me have a look at that, and it was one of my favourite comic books of last year that I read last year. I know it had been out the year before. Always grabbed me that panel work and the unorthodox nature that Ram V obviously puts into his writing in terms of just a visionary, like total visionary, writer, and obviously he has he must have an amazing working relationship with his artists as well, because I think the contextualization and or the I would really like to be part of those writing meetings and those meetings between him and his team.
Yeah, I'm sure working closely to get to be able to get that, to visualize the story so well, and even like the cover and bits throughout the book. This is very much like a Saul Bass design from the 60s. So it's kind of very much got that feel of the era about it in certain places. There's little bits of history in there as well, and slightly supernatural kind of horror. I mean, it's hard to kind of define it, but it's probably more horror than anything else.
It was fun listening to you trying to define it earlier. And it was like trying to work out what's going on. It sounds yeah. But then again, that blending of ideas and everything. Check Ram V is going to be massive in comics. I think he's big already. I think you just need to check out some of his stuff. I'm really excited to try and grab a hold of that.
Yeah, if you're into superheroes punching each other, then I probably wouldn't pick this up.
Yeah.
If that's your kind of book and the only kind of book that you read, then probably not. Or if you're into sci-fi and that's all you read, then this is not the book for you. But if you do like a bit of kind of psychological horror, a bit of mystery, it's almost a kind of biographical type book, about the character, their life story as well, which some of it is kind of a mystery to them, so it uncovers a lot about his life, the main character, and his past and his family's past as well. So incredible book, really is. I'm really glad I got that.
You sound like a man that's well cool. I'm kind of jealous that you've had that amazing reading experience. So that's very cool. I'm going to pop this banner because I've noticed we've had like over 7. I just said I was going to say over 7 and it dropped to 6. We've had like quite a large portion of folks viewing us all the time. This episode's been lovely. Obviously, people back in lockdown and stuff like that. We'll pop a wee banner up saying just remember and like us and say hi. Lots of people liking us. Lots of people saying hi. There was a couple of comments I wanted to read out before we moved on. Jason Everett, friend and guest of the podcast, just wanted to say that he was hi. I'm glad to see us. And Rob said that he also loved Scream, but issues 14 and 15 never arrived at his local newsagents. So for years he believed that the horror element meant it was fated to finish on issue 13.
Well, I do have 14 and 15. I did also have the summer special as well, but I sold that, and it cost me like 65p or something at the time, and I sold it for like 20 quid.
Wow, that's well cool.
I don't know why. I just did. Just to say somebody wanted it, and I thought, well, okay, fair enough. I'll sell you how much? 20 quid. Ooh,
that's all right. I only ever did that once. I can't remember. I bought a rule book for a Hero Quest in a charity shop in Dunfermline for £1, and I popped it up on eBay because I was interested to see what it was worth, and I sold it for £7. So that was. It's like, you can imagine. Like I felt like total Mr. Moneybags. Like shit. It's funny. And Rob's saying that those were the days before the internet. So, like, obviously, before you were able to. I was watching something recently that kind of talked about that same thing, Rob. I can't even remember what the context was, but the fact is, before the internet, it was about kind of like, I think it was about the Blair Witch Project, the original Blair Witch Project movie, and how before, that was the first movie to really take advantage of the fact that the internet was full of like, there wasn't enough moderation in terms of facts and checking and stuff like that. So the Blair Witch Project was able to completely take advantage of the fact that folk weren't able to use the internet or use it, like use the internet wasn't a thing yet, where people could use it to source information the way we do now. So you caught it was a before that, even before the internet, you had that whole urban legend thing where like you didn't know the answer to something, so you and your friends kind of made the answer up yourself, and then that became the fact rather than actually what was going on. You right, Colin? Check what I read this. I read more this Christmas than I've read in a wee while. You got me a really awesome wee present. You got me a Hookjaw comic, because obviously I was totally all over that last year. I read that. It was really good. Hookjaw's a funny thing. For those that don't know it, I don't know how 2000 AD or Image or whoever's in charge of. It's not Image that do Hookjaw. It'll be Rebellion, obviously, but I don't know who's in charge of like moderating. It's a weird thing. Hookjaw is really awesome. For those that don't know what it is, and I keep saying the word Hookjaw, it's a big killer shark, like an abnormally large shark with a hook in its mouth, that originally showed up in the mid-70s. But is it Action Comics? Was it Action Comics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was genuinely it was created as a reaction to the fact that Jaws had come out the year before, and then. But I don't really know what I would be interested to see what the writing process is behind Hookjaw, or what, because obviously he got a recent run in 2000 AD where it was all about like the whole story was less about the shark and more about like social media and how they played around with the idea that Hookjaw was mythological and it got its power from belief. So if you believed in Hookjaw, it became more powerful, if that makes sense. But obviously social media, he became. In the most recent 2000 AD run, he becomes a viral sensation, and as a result, becomes bigger and deadlier than he's ever been, to the point that he eats a pier at one point full of people. The comic you lent me is just totally weird. It's set off the coast of Africa. I don't know if you read it before you gave it to me, but it's set off the coast of Africa, and it's playing around with the idea of pirates and people boarding boats and then ransoming the crew back to like whatever government they were part of. But then there's also this ecological battle going on as well, where members of the main cast believe that they're doing like Mother Nature's work. So there's all like like the Greenpeace Greenpeace doing like chain themselves to oil rigs and all that sort of stuff. So there was all that going on. It was just nuts. And then when this is all going on, there's a shark that can't be killed and eats things, like eats boats and people. It was great. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it.
I remember that book coming out. It's probably about 3 years ago or something, maybe longer, I don't know. But it had been a long time since Hookjaw had been a thing. And I do remember reading Hookjaw in action way back and just thinking, this is just the most nuts thing. I wasn't into it at all. And then when I saw that, they'd brought this Hookjaw character back, I thought, what are they doing? But there it is in 2000 AD, just tail end of last year.
I really enjoyed the one from the tail end of last year. Was really, there was things like they were playing around with the fact that somebody was using like a voodoo or like an ancient. It was set in Cornwall, so I think it was like an old Cornish kind of. Obviously, like, but before the foundations of Christianity, there was a lot of sort of Wiccan and witchcrafty kind of or magic-based religions. So they're playing around the fact that like people were trying to use magic to contain Hookjaw, but there were some amazing bits where there was like a gangster in his hot tub, and Hookjaw appeared in his hot tub. So like there's a panel where like the shark magically appeared inside this guy's mad hot tub and he ate him. And it was just full of nonsense like that, but like it's written well enough. Like I must sound like an absolute fool trying to describe it, but it is the most. I don't know what, as I say, I don't know what the process is behind writing Hookjaw, but it does sound like they must just give people the bare bones. Like it's a shark, it's like Jaws, but ramped up to like 900 miles an hour. Do what you want with it and see what you can get away with, because it's just this idea that this shark just does total random stuff. It's great. So I read that. I read a lot of stuff on Comic House, including one I really enjoyed by Stuart Ilhand Comics called Press Z to Continue, which was the idea of a young guy who uses his knowledge of like computer games like Resident Evil to survive the zombie apocalypse, which was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. It was an issue 1, and I'm looking forward to hopefully there being an issue 2. I don't really know what the process is behind the writing, because of Comic House is almost like it's for independent comic writers to put their stuff up. So I don't know what stages the writers are on issue 2 of this, but issue 1 was really, really good. I enjoyed that. There was a really good run of 2000 AD at the end over Christmas that I read as well, including, I mentioned this on a 2000 AD Facebook page, and it got a bit of a couple of folk got back to me about it in agreement. But I think it's Prague 2211, which came out it came out on the 9th of December, so it was like just before the Christmas holidays. And what I did was I collected a group of my 2000 ADs and read them in a oneer. But that issue, I think it was the one before the Christmas issue, which was like the bumper one with all the stories. So they were like one-off stories. So they were finishing, I think for the year, they were finishing a couple of arcs, so that the newest 2000 AD that came out last week is starting the new year with some new story arcs. But that there was this one particular issue, I say this 2211, it was just it just kept gut punching. Like all the stories had like punchlines that were really poignant or strong, or like they gave with one hand and then took with other. And I actually put up on Facebook, and a lot of folks seemed to agree it was just a really impactful issue. I don't really know. I don't know, like, so for example, the Judge Dredd, there was a twist at the end of the Judge Dredd story at the start that was a bit like, oh, that's a bit hard to take based on where I thought this was going. And then the next story, which was the conclusion of another story, which was called Visions. Sorry, it was the first part of a Visions of Dead World arc called The Good Samaritan, and they did the same thing. It was an interesting story about a guy and his wife trying to escape some sort of apocalyptic event by trying to get to the nearest hospital, but then things weren't quite what they seemed. And it was just like the story took you one direction and then pulled you back into a really dark place. And I was like, you've done that twice in one issue, like really, really quickly. And then it was the last part of a series called The Fiends of the Eastern Front.
Oh yeah.
Constanta was the name of this 10-part arc, and that was a really punchy end to like a 10-part story as well. It was just like the end of it was like, you've really been kicking, you've really kicked this. And it was just a particularly good single issue of 2000 AD that I was like, oh, like I wasn't expecting the emotional impact of so many stories in a one-hour. It was just weird. I just wanted to point out. And then my Kickstarter stuff came on. So my main comic this week, let's see if I can share it now, was my I read this. This was a comic I got over Kickstarter called True Cult. I actually had to ask you what it was called because they've done that quirky spelling thing where they've used V's instead of U's. But I backed this on Kickstarter. It's called True Cult, and as you can see, no, you can't see because my computer's frozen. It was by Scott Brian Wilson. I'm failing. I'm just going to remove that and just talk about it. It was a comic I backed on Kickstarter last year, and then for anyone that backs stuff on Kickstarter, there's this amazing process where you actually forget that you bought a comic, and then it will, and then they'll just get in touch with you, and all of a sudden you're like, there we go. I'll put that up first. So I got this comic sent to me late last week, early this week, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna, and I was blown away by how much I enjoyed it actually. So it's about a guy, and quite loosely, this issue 1's about a guy who has worked. There's a right. I'll put the right team up there. So it's about a guy who's worked the same dead end job for like 15 years. He works as a burger manager, burger restaurant chef manager for a local chain in America. But as a result, he's been able to memorize the security protocols for the rest of the strip mall he works in. So his restaurant is like is one shop in a row of maybe 10 shops. So one afternoon he decides he's just going to rob every shop in order, because he knows their security process, and it just doesn't go the way it's supposed to. It's quite funny. Like he commits the robberies and he goes back to work, and the police arrive like almost immediately because like everybody that he robbed reported that the robber stunk of pickles and fried food. So straight away they're like, oh, it must be something. And it was just really, really funny. It wasn't what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be obviously a lot of the artwork and the implications of the comic, the stuff here in the Kickstarter suggested that there's going to be like an otherworldly kind of occult element to the story, which wasn't in this issue 1. I don't know if it was just because they were trying to set the stage in issue 1.
Yeah.
But it was,
where did they get the title from? It doesn't seem to tie in at all.
Well, exactly, and that's exactly what I thought. I might even drop Scott Wilson a wee message and ask what's going. So that our writing team is I've done it again. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. So this is our. There's a big team, and I talked about this a wee bit before. So Brian Wilson's the writer and co-creator. Leanna Kangas is artist and co-creator, and then there was quite a big squad in there, and also I said there was multiple variant colors as well. Just artwork's really, really nice. I thought I really enjoyed it. Nice use of colors. I really, really enjoyed it. As I say, this is this guy puts on a mask. He says there's just some. I thought this bit was really cool. There's some really kind of quirky dialogue and internal dialogue. So he's like, I knew as soon as I pulled on the mask that it was going to work. It felt like my own face. Well, it didn't really. It actually wasn't that comfortable. I mean, what's the opposite of literally that? Yeah, like that. Stuff like that. I just thought it was just kind of quirky. Like the character wants to be the main character in his head is cooler than he actually is, and as this progresses, it just gets I just really enjoyed it. Really quite silly, but as you say, like I don't know where the true cult name comes from. It implied that I expected a wee bit more of that kind of culty, otherworldly. A lot of the variant covers play around with like a lot of the variant cover work, and as I said to you before we went to air, it was like the main story itself was about 27, 28 pages long, but then there was like another 17 pages in the back of the comic that were like variant covers and alternative covers and other stuff that I was like, I thought that was interesting because I don't know how you feel about this, but as somebody that creates comics, obviously I've started to create comics in the last year or so, filling out page space when I wrote my most recent comic was 34 pages, I think, and then the way you have to when you go to the printer, you have to make sure that you have your page count and then your cover count, which is technically another 4 pages because you've got your outside and inside covers and stuff like that. Sometimes you like I found both times I've had an extra page where I'm like, oh, shit, what do I do with this? And I'm like, I'll put in a Brewgooder advert. That's good. So the fact that there was this creative choice that they would have a main story, but then have another 17 pages of cover work and internal art and stuff was just, I think, quite strange. And what you were talking about earlier as well was it was quite expensive. That would have been quite expensive, like 17 pages of full color art times is quite a lot. You know, like I mean, they didn't struggle. I had a look just before we went to air as well. The comic made £22,000, $22,000, sorry, on Kickstarter. So it was by no means, it was no by a project that was struggling. Just an odd choice. I thought I was like 17, 15, 16, 17 pages of bonus art was just kind of excessive in my opinion. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that issue 2 comes along sooner rather than later because it was a really enjoyable first issue. That was about it. I checked what else I read. But that was my main thing. That was the one I wanted to talk about. Yeah. I didn't really have. Aye.
Yeah, I mean, kind of on the theme of Kickstarter, obviously, as the holiday season has passed, I'm sure we'll start to see a lot more Kickstarter starting again. You know, totally. As it comes into spring, that seems to be a big season for new books on Kickstarter. So it'll be interesting to see what is coming out fairly soon. I did get Hell in Stalingrad recently.
Yeah.
So we had Rob Jones on the show a few months back. So that's this sort of supernatural World War II story. So I haven't read it yet, but I will get around to reading that very soon. I did have a quick look on Kickstarter to see what was of interest, and I did see quite a few people that I follow, some friends, backing a book called Band of Warriors, which is written by Samuel George London. And he had previously done a series called Milford Green. Don't know if you've seen that at all. It's a Victorian sci-fi sort of H.G. Wells.
Oh, cool. I haven't heard of it.
Series. It's good, really good, and got great reviews and stuff. So he's doing this new book called Band of Warriors. So this is issue 1. It does say for mature readers only, but it's kind of mixing up Celtic and Greek mythology. It's set 1500 BC. Looks like it's going to be some sort of epic, adventure or story set in around, that kind of time. Band of Warriors. So that's on Kickstarter just now. I think it's got about 3 weeks to go. That looks as though
about 48% funded, so it's on its
way.
About
that at the moment. I haven't really seen anything else on Kickstarter that's really, caught my eye. Apart from
loads of superhero stuff. I had a look earlier, and there's loads of superhero stuff on just now. So yeah, who did we have on? Jason, was it Jason Everett that said that he only ever buys his stuff off Kickstarter?
Yeah,
so really good stuff there. If you want to
indie comics,
yeah. David Crana is asking what device we use to read Comic House stuff on. I've got a tablet, like the Google Tab or something. It's and I sometimes read stuff on my phone as well. If I've got 5 or 10 minutes, and I scrolling through my phone, I'm like, oh yeah, I've got the Comic House app on my phone. That'll put a couple of things on. It's very good. Rob Price is saying it would have been good to see Hookjaw driving an 18-wheeler like in a Stephen King novel. Rob, let's talk. Like I want to try. Me and Colin had a conversation just before New Year about like what our comic goals were for 2021, and I'd had a couple to drink. I had a few to drink when we were having the conversation, and I ambitiously stated that I wanted to write for Hookjaw at some point this year. I think that's a good idea. And Jimmy's asking, saying Happy New Year. I like reading the comments, and now Rob's laughing, but I genuinely think that's a gold mine.
It sounds like you could just take it anywhere you like. In fact, I think it's probably time for Hookjaw to go to space.
Did you ever see when Back to the Future we were about to do that epic, like I think it was like Back to the Future Day they called it, and it was they made a big deal about the day that they went forward to, so like that day in 2015. I remember because I actually dressed up like Marty to go to work that day, and I watched all the Back to the Future movies because they were on the telly that night. But there was an advert that went out, and I think it was the guys that did Back to the Future. They put it out, and it was that bit in Back to the Future with part 2 when the holographic shark eats Marty.
Yeah.
And it's like Jaws 17 or something.
Yeah.
Or I think it was there's an advert. You'll probably be able to find it on YouTube. There's an advert of like explaining like what all the Jawses were between that. So it was like first it was Jaws, then he got revenge, and then it goes on for ages. It's like, and then in Jaws 8, he had a baby. It's like, and it was all that sort of stuff. And one of the, I think it was like Jaws 12. It's like Jaws 12 went to the moon. And it's like, it's just all the logos for different Jaws movies, but with different like stylistic graphics. It was just really quite funny. I enjoyed it. You mentioned before we went to air something that I thought was quite interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but on there has been a comic that's been making a lot of noise on Twitter for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Just the last couple of days, it's kind of blown up. And so middle of last year, I think it was, there was a comic appeared on Kickstarter called Maddie, M-A-D-I, written by Alex DeCampi. I can't remember who the artist is, Delgado or something. Well-known writers and artists, who've done lots of stuff. I mean, Alex DeCampi, writer on Full Tilt Boogie on 2000 AD recently. But this was a comic that made, £250,000 on Kickstarter, about, I don't know, 7,000 backers or something. I certainly looked at the comic myself and I went to back it. I thought, I'm going to get this 260-page book. But crucially, I got to that stage where it says the postal charges, the mailing charges, will be calculated after the Kickstarter ends. So that was a warning. That was just a warning shot across the bows that people should have just went, I don't know about this. And it turns out that, people are being charged up to like $50 to get this book sent, out of the USA or wherever it's been fulfilled from. Even to UK, it's $20, which is quite a lot of money for postage for any book. Pretty much you can send anything within the UK for about a fiver, up to the size of Hookjaw. And it just seemed like a bit much, and I just didn't back it at all. And then suddenly the comic is available to buy from Amazon. Yeah. Okay, not the hardcover version; it's just a softcover version, But you can buy it from Amazon and not pay any delivery charges, And so there was a lot of people, kind of up in arms about this a little bit. And then an update came out on the Kickstarter page for it, written, I think, by Alex DeCampi. I'm not entirely sure, but I think so. And it was explaining. Well, explaining is probably too hard. Is not harsh enough. About the issues. And it starts off, "Hey everyone, first things first. Some of you going, 'Where's my book?' Didn't actually pay your backer kit shipping, so your book hasn't been sent. There's like 200 of you. We've re-invoiced all you deadbeats."
So was
way
deadbeat
to go, customer services.
Yeah.
Way to go with customer service. Just calling the 200 people who, maybe don't understand how backer kit works or didn't realise they were going to get hit by these massive postal charges, just call them deadbeats. And then it's quite a big, blah, 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 blah. And even going on to then complain about the people who are complaining that they can now get it on Amazon cheaper and stuff as well. And it's a big ranty sounding kind of message on or update on Kickstarter, which is still there, so you can go read it if you want. It's there for public view. You can make of it what you want, but it just didn't go well with a lot of the comics community, and particularly I'm just reading Rob's comment there. It didn't go down well with the comics community and a lot of people who have been successfully run Kickstarter campaigns have kind of come out and said, like, this is not on, this is just not the way to treat your fans and things. And it just came across a bit nasty. And
there's a few things.
I'm glad I never gave them any money.
David Crana said the same thing. I'll pop that up. It was exactly the same. Colin with that book never backed it for exactly the same reason. Yeah, so that's maybe worth. That's something. Keep a note of that. What's that called? That backer kit postage, where they don't tell you what you're going to pay.
Yeah,
Keep an eye on that.
after the campaign. And the other comic was that one that Boom Studios did with Keanu Reeves. They did the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did kind of put some suggested, they kind of tried to work out roughly what postage might be, but sometimes it was like $35.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? And as it turns out, people are going to get it in the shops quicker than they'll actually get it through the Kickstarter.
I was going to say that there was a few things going on there that I find quite wrong, and I don't know if I wanted to ask you, because actually, as you were telling me this, I was finding kind of fundamental issues, and I was like, actually, maybe I need to ask you if I'm right at taking umbrage. So the first thing was like, is calling folk deadbeats. Do you think that was tongue in cheek, or do you think that was genuinely not very nice?
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's tongue in cheek or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
I tell in a written text message, so you don't use
yeah.
language.
So you should do it. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Just
That's
don't
exactly
put it in writing,
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's kind of where I thought. That's kind of what I thought as well. Yeah, I think I can imagine that would be the response to that. Oh, our backers are our friends or whatever. And it's kind of what I thought of that. I also thought, like, I don't know if you taught me this. I think you maybe did. I remember there was somebody else that had done something similar, where people had backed. I think it was around the comic house though. So like people had backed the comic, had got it, and then quite soon after, people had received the PDF, so it was on Comic House anyway. And so, and I can't remember who it was, but there was a wee bit of backlash about that.
Yeah.
And I think the idea that that this is available on Amazon before people have got their backed copies is pretty poor. But I don't know if that's a justifiable.
Yeah, excuse me. Their justification is that the Kickstarter is a hardcover copy, but you can only get soft cover copy, and that the campaign has got lots of extras and things as well. But
Okay.
it just sparks a bit. These are professionals that have been in the comics industry for a while. They should be a bit more organised to get the stuff out to people. Let's face it.
There's a loyalty thing there as well. I remember we had Stephen Tanner on last year. Again, looking forward to Braun coming out really soon. But Stephen said as well, like that's why I asked you about like your backers or your friends thing. Like like the people that back you are the people that believe in your project before it's a reality. So, and I understand that they were saying that they if you back the project, you got lots of wee bonuses and perks in that as well. But I don't know. It's probably an unwritten rule, but I certainly thought like I would never. I have obviously copies of my comics, but like I didn't put any of them for sale until I met the demand that I had first. Obviously, and actually I don't know where I got that rule from. I don't know if you taught me or if it just felt like general like respect. But like you can now buy my comics on my Big Cartel page, but that wasn't an option until everybody that backed it got their copy first, because obviously without them, I would have the capacity to sell it elsewhere.
Yeah, I think other people who've had on the show have said something similar, and certainly that's how I feel. I feel a kind of loyalty to those people that backed the Kickstarter to give them something exclusive, at least for a while.
Yeah,
and not make it generally available, immediately afterwards. Especially at any kind of reduced price or that, because people might be paying a wee bit of a premium to get it on Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're helping you out, to get your book out there. And I feel that you have to have some kind of respect and loyalty towards your customers for being, for being there for you to help your project get funded. And, don't piss them off in any way. If you can give them extras and stuff, then please do, and you get the stuff out to them. Give them good information. If that whole debacle with Alex DeCampi could have just been, I'm just putting this message out here because 200 people still haven't, sent up their details or paid their let's just explain the process. This is what you need to do. And as soon as you've done that, we'll get the book shipped to you. That's all you needed to do.
You alienate your a big part of I noticed anyway. For me, I don't know if you're the same or anyone else that's watching that does Kickstarter. But a big group of the guys that like backed my issue 2 were the same guys that backed were a lot very similar. You know, there was guys that I've never spoke to in person. I've got a lot of friends like yourself and like Brian Lumsden, Barry Lumsden, sorry, and Michael felt like friends, just genuine friends who will back like, and we always back each other's projects because like that's kind of what you do, isn't it? And so like there's a big part of like any of like the fundraisers at any of the Kickstarters I would do, I would expect to see like folk from previous Kickstarters just rebacking, and like there's a couple of guys in the States in particular, guys I've never met who have backed both issues. But imagine if I did a DeCampo and like were rude to them when they had a genuine grievance, like that's it, that's fucked. Like bye bye issue 3. You know what I mean? Like,
and you know what? Right at the opposite end of the scale, David's listening into the chat tonight, and David's had some issues with just getting his comic out on time, but he's been up front. His updates have been really clear. This is where we are with the comic. This is the problems, issues we're having. He's posting regularly, keeping everybody up to date, and that's just what you want. You want that good kind of friendly service. We understand these things happen, but if you at least tell people about it, so hats off to David for.
There's a Marcus just back said she didn't handle it well. The customer comes first.
Yeah,
and even if people hadn't filled out their forms correctly, you shouldn't be disparaging and spiteful. Like you just alienate them. Like I would, like I've got shops in my local vicinity that I don't visit because even though they're local businesses, the guy was a bit rude to me, and I'm like, I'm going to buy my bread from another corner shop. Thanks, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I was at a restaurant with friends. Where the service was terrible and the staff were just rude, and I've never been back. And okay, it was a one-off thing, and folk have said, "Oh, it's a great place," but that's kind of with me. I'm not going to take that from anybody. Mark,
it's Dave saying it's all a learning curve, and it's the same. My Inky 2 was a week later than I anticipated as well, just because like stuff happens, and that folk understand that stuff happens. So you're just.
But you just got to let them know,
Yeah.
In a nice way. Mark Abnett was commenting there. Mark's going to be on the show soon because he's got a Kickstarter for. I can't remember the name of the comic, and I'm sure he'll just post it in a minute.
I have asked if you've got anything
Maori kind of based fantasy book, as far as I'm aware. So I'm interested to hear about that and see when that appears.
Just we've got loads of comments that I wanted to read. Rob's just firing out great one-liners tonight. It's great. There's been a huge hike in delivery costs in the past year, which we've all seen. Like I noticed it between Inky 1 came out in April, and I remember sending things out. It was costing me £2.20 to send locally, and then I changed because what I did with Inky 1 is I just said delivery cost was £2 everywhere. And then it came to like £2.20 something, and I remember being like, "Oh, I'm out of pocket, £22 a comic or whatever it was." And then so I altered my delivery costs accordingly for Inky 2, which I sent out in December, and it was like £3 where it had been £2.20 before. And I remember being like, "Oh, okay," and I'm glad I did that. But yeah, like you say, just due to COVID and loads of different situations all over the place. So that there's a perfect storm. Rob's saying there's a perfect storm there, and in the middle of it lives a shark called Hookjaw. I think answering the question of what do folk have coming up soon this year. Rob's saying that he's got a hashtag rattle and roll issue 2, but maybe we can talk about that next week. Maybe Rob. And then Mark saying he's land. He's dropped us a wee link there as well. So I'll copy and paste that comment, and I think if folk are watching this on Facebook, they can just click on the link. But cool. Yeah, we hope to get Mark on soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was saying about February's his Kickstarter's
Yeah,
kickoffs.
amazing.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Let's just have your face run off there. Anything else that, I don't know, what's happening in the world that we want to talk about?
There's lots we don't want to talk about, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
lots of people. I'm excited. I saw the trailer for WandaVision. That comes out on that.
Oh, WandaVision, yeah. It's out soon, middle of the month or something, isn't it?
Like the 14th.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm not sure if it's going to be my thing at all. I think I'll watch the first episode and decide. I don't know, other TV stuff. What else is coming out? Have you seen Cobra Kai?
I'm like 4 episodes in, and then Andrea from work, because I gave her a round today at work. She was like, she came in, she walked past my classroom. It was my first day back at work teaching today. My friend Andrea, Mrs. Reed in geography, walked past and she's like, "How you doing?" I was like, "I was doing fine until Monday, Miss Reed, when you spoiled the ending of Cobra Kai season 3 before I'd seen it." I'm about halfway through. I'm in Okinawa, is where I am right now.
Okay, yeah, cool, good, yeah. So not far to go. A couple episodes. That was good. And yeah, looking forward to see what they do next. I'm wondering, is it big enough for a series, or is it just going to be a one-off or something they might do? I don't know. We'll wait and see. Could be another year yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hi. That's the weird thing. Like, there's so much television coming out now that I saw like Doctor Who has been cut by 2 episodes or something.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have, due to COVID, they've not been able to film the entire season as anticipated.
Yeah.
I imagine that's reflected.
Be changing the main actor as well again.
Yeah, she announced it, isn't she? She's retiring. Well, because she's traditionally, I didn't realize this was tradition. I've been a Doctor Who fan for years and years, but traditionally you do 3/4 years anyway.
Yeah.
And that, like,
I'm sure Tom Baker is going, hold on a minute, I never knew that was a thing.
He did 7
in movies or something. Jesus, what's going on?
He did 7, and everyone else did 4. So they did 3 seasons, I think, is how they worked out. 3 full, it works out about 4 years, but it works out 3 full seasons plus specials or something.
I'm not too bothered about Doctor Who. I think I've realised quite recently that it's a kid's show, and I'm not a kid anymore.
It's all right. I've been rewatching some of it just to try and find my.
There's a few episodes I have really enjoyed, and then other ones are just like, what the hell's going on here? Coming up.
Mando 2. Have you watched the whole second season of Mando yet?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've not yet, but I don't need to, because again, Facebook
spoiled.
I know. But yeah, I'll get there. Check what else is going on. It's weird. TV's a weird one, and TV and film's a weird one. I know we both love our geek stuff, but there just seems to be an awful lot of because of COVID, there's an awful lot of uncertainty about when things are coming out. I was told I was told over the moon. I had a friend that was going through a really hard time over Christmas, and then I made his day by sending him the advert for Cobra Kai season 3. Because it wasn't supposed to be out till today, but they moved it.
Yeah,
they moved it forward a week, and that made he was like, "Oh, cheers, man! That's totally made my day." It was like.
Yeah, I think also we've all been expecting the next season of Stranger Things to appear.
Oh, yeah.
It's all gone kind of a bit quiet, hasn't it?
It has. I'm just grabbing another beer. My understanding with Marvel as well, as there's a couple of comments I'll read as well. My understanding with Marvel is because they pushed their release schedule the way they have. I think WandaVision got pushed. Straight me down if I'm wrong. I always say that. I think WandaVision was supposed to come out in November, but it's been moved. Originally, I think they'd hoped to try and get. I think chronologically, you're supposed to have seen Black Widow before you see WandaVision, but they can't do that because Marvel don't release any of their films. So WandaVision's coming out of order. But then if you look at Marvel's release schedule as a result of that, you've got I think WandaVision finishes, and almost immediately after we're getting Winter Soldier and Falcon, and then almost again immediately after that we're getting Loki. So it's like it works out. I saw somewhere it works out that over half a year worth of Marvel content once a week for like the next like 4 or 5 months, and then on top of that we're getting films as well. So yeah, that's what Mark's saying there. So thank you for vindicating me, my man. Eternals was supposed to be out by now as well, and that's been moved back to this.
Because that was the first movies that was due in.
Yeah. I missed the cinema. I wanted to see Wonder Woman 84 in the cinema. It's getting all right reviews, but I just can't bring myself to go to the cinema.
I don't massively miss the cinema because, to be quite honest, the last time I went to the cinema was, I think, Rise of Skywalker, and some bloody fan who couldn't keep his mouth shut behind me, just kind of, whooping and cheering and, oh yeah, God, just shut up, I want to watch the movie, not listen to you, orgasming over the appearance of some minor character from, 3 seasons ago, that sort of crap.
I have had an experience like that, which has been annoying. But then I saw Endgame the day it came out at the cinema, and there was a lot of that going on in the screen, and it actually added to the experience. But I think it wasn't one guy at the back going, "Whoa!" Yeah. It was a whole room of folk like nervously giggling, and then like there was a few folk chanting when Black Panther starts doing his like chant, and the Wakandans show up. Like there was folk in my cinema screen like shout like. Was it? I don't want to say it because I can't quite remember what the chant, the Wakandan chant is. But folk were doing it in my screen, and it was awesome. It was like you could just feel this bubble of like folk like.
No, that would completely annoy me. So So after that, when I went to the cinema the next time, I went at 8 a.m. because there was 4 other people in, and it was a brilliant experience. It was so quiet.
I've done that as well, though. I saw Infinity War in 8 o'clock Saturday morning screening, and it was great. I loved it. Mark is firing out loads of comments. Back to postage very briefly. I know a guy who has a historical postal contract service and is incredibly cheaper than Royal Mail. But if you need to get the post to him in Wigtown, So
Wigtown, which is COVID central in Scotland at the moment. And
was that
southwestern end of Scotland?
Is Wigtown not the place that's got that mental bookshop?
Mental bookshop in Wigtown.
I would like to go to Wigtown because my understanding is I'll need to again folk about what the fuck is he talking about. Wigtown's got like a because that's Rabbie Burns country, isn't it? Like that kind of corner of south west Scotland. I think my understanding is that Wigtown has a name like the Library Town or something like that, and there's like loads of bookshops and stuff in Wigtown. Yeah, look, there we go. Like, thanks, Mark. Mark's helping me out. We should get Mark just doing all our background stuff for us. So Wigtown has a book festival of Scotland. Endgame in the cinema was brilliant, and the words I was looking for was Yimbambe. That's the Wakandan chant. Yeah. But what we're doing that so thanks, Mark. But yeah, it would be quite interesting because I just always go. Do you always go Royal Mail when you deliver your comics?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I never considered about going anywhere else, to be honest. That'd be quite just because it's easy to walk to the post office, I suppose. Which is, but yeah. Rob was saying that back in the 80s when he was watching Aliens, he couldn't contain himself when the android got ripped in half, and he shouted
out. That's good. Back to the Future. I remember going to see Back to the Future with my mate. We were at high school at the time, and the bit where George punches Biff, and my mate jumped up his seat and he went, "Your beauty!"
Of course he did. That's I I watched the Back to the Future trilogy about a year and a half ago with my oldest, and he had a very physical response to that moment. It's like the ultimate geek. It's like it's the ultimate geek does good scene in I think any film.
Yeah.
And I remember Sean, my oldest, was like, "Yes!" It was like, yeah, it was a really powerful moment. What else? What are you, what is your comic goals for this year? Colin?
Comic goals.
Or aims. Have you got anything you can talk about? I know you're the rock star.
Right. So I'm in the middle of writing 3 scripts for Commando. One's due in next month. Well, start of February. I'm about a third of the way through that. I'll polish that off easily, and then I've got a couple more to do. So I've got on the go. In terms of drawing other stuff coming out, well, we will have, or hopefully we'll have on the show, some of the artists, writers, etc. on Blazer, which is being published by the same people as the 77 comic.
Yeah.
That is a kind of fictional comic which appeared in a book called The Sheer Glam Conspiracy, but it's getting made into a real comic by the 77 crew. So I've got a story in that I've illustrated. So that's coming out. Oh, it'll be on Kickstarter soon, like in 2 weeks' time, I think. And we're hoping that we might have some of the contributors on the show around that time as well.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
So that's coming. And I've also been offered the chance to to illustrate a story, I think for maybe an annual. I think it's an annual, so it might not be till the end of the year. So that's all I've kind of got on at the moment. So a couple of stories. I'm writing a couple of other pitches and things as well, which I'm not entirely sure who they're for, but I'm writing. I've got some stories to write up, and I'll put it as a pitch to whoever may be interested in it.
Well, I've started doing pitches this year, but I sent them to you because I'm like, but I'd rather you let me down gently than some publisher either not getting back to me or being like, what is this and who are you? That's quite a nerve. I totally respect you for writing all these pitches, because actually I found just writing one for no reason quite complicated and tricky, and then like you are writing something in the hope that somebody else thinks your idea is all right. So I found that quite a nerve-wracking experience. So fair play that you're firing out them. Like I found just writing a pitch and sending it to you nerve-wracking enough, but you're handing them to like DC Thompson and that, you know. Guy, good. I'm excited. You always sound like you're I've just written a few pitches for Commando Comics, and I'm like, all right, okay. It's amazing. I actually really look forward to seeing where your comic career goes this year, Colin, because you always have some really, that's pretty amazing.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. Well, like I say, just got a few ideas I'm going to pitch out there somewhere, and I just need to knuckle down and get on with the writing. I think for some, I've got a big kind of graphic novel story, but it's not. I've never put pen to paper yet for it, and yet it's all there. It's got a great ending and everything. And I just haven't got around to it, and I need to kind of get it down on paper at some point. But just finding the time. I know it seems silly, kind of we're in lockdown, but actually my kind of day work is quite challenging working from home. So I don't quite, and then it's quite stressful, and I don't feel like working on stuff at night.
I totally agree with that. I found I don't know if anyone else does this. I did this the other day. I was tidying I get random ideas for stuff when I'm tidying. So I've got that. Google have got a really cool app called Keep Notes that you talk to it, and then it just turns all your words into, it's like a what's that called, a dictaphone, but it turns your what you say to it into words, but then it backs it up into all your Google devices. So I was tidying like my kitchen the other day, and I spoke at it because I had like a whole thing, something that I was really struggling to put together for in issue 3 of Enki. I was really kind of struggling with like an element of it that I was really finding quite tricky, and then a solution came to my head when I was like doing the dishes. So I just clicked a button on my phone, and it's a gobbledygook of like, it's not in proper English because you're supposed to tell it when to take. There's like commands that you're supposed to make to the dictaphone to tell it to do full stops and stuff. Whereas I just talk at it, and then I'll sort out the grammar. I'll sort out the grammar later. But it's I'm laughing at Rob. Rob just, I don't know. You can't see the message. Have you got Facebook on or not? There you go. Then. Have you ever used a dictaphone? No, I've only ever used my fingers. Mark saying that his missus is South African, so she speaks a little Osha, which is what the Wakandan spoke. So there you go. And yeah. Rob, is Rob going to be a handful next week, Colin?
No, you're in control. You can just cut him off at any point.
I'm in control, but like as we've seen from this episode, sometimes I'm like, yeah. So yeah, next week we've got Rob Price on, which will be really good. He's going to talk to us about his
rattle and roll
and all the other stuff. So it'll be good to get him. I'll be excited to get him on.
And then fairly soon after that, I guess we'll probably have Mark as well, who's been tuning in. So
yeah, we've got Mark. Yeah, we get messages quite a lot. We get messages quite a lot from folk who want to chat to us. So we've got a couple of few lines up. We've got some. I'm looking forward to the Blazer episode as well. Hoping on or around about episode 77 we get somebody from the 77 to come and join us. I think that's quite apt, which I think just through pure luck is around about the time that issue 5 will probably be doing its rounds anyway. So obviously when we first had Banksy and Brandon on last year, it was just after issue 1 had gone to print.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to see it'll be nice to see. It'll be almost a year afterwards, and they'll be able to chat about like how they've grown as a enterprise, as a thing. You know, I wanted to talk very briefly, and I totally forgot to there now. This somebody on the 77's Facebook page posted about the top 10 comics of last year, and we read like 8 of them. It was like I was reading it, and I was like 2000 AD was number 1, 77 was number 2, Shift, and what was the other one that we read last year that was really good? What was the black and white one? That was the other anthology that came out last year. Its name escapes me. Yeah, Space Warp was in the top 10.
Yeah.
I was annoyed because Animorphs had a graphic novel last year. So when I was younger, I was about 9 or 10. My gran used to buy me Animorphs, and it was my favorite book series. Probably still is one of my most favorite book series ever. I had no idea that they made a graphic novel of the first book. So I'm now like, and you can't get it. So I messaged the Little Shop of Heroes. I was like, go and just get me the Animorphs graphic novel, please. And they're like, you can't get it, Jeff. Scholastic. I've got Scholastic, who are the guys that put it out.
All right.
They can be quite, once they've done their initial print run, they become quite hard to get like other things off them. It's like they print it and just send it straight out. So they don't have like they don't have, I don't know. There was an issue with like being able to access it for me. So I'm gonna have to go into Amazon to get it.
Well, just on the same note there, I know you're a bit of a Power Rangers fan, and Boom are releasing I've got a Kickstarter for Power Ranger reprints just now.
Oh, good, because actually I need to get reprints. I'll have a look at that. I've got issues 21 to 49 of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger series, but it's really hard to get earlier issues. So I
don't know what's on there, but I did see.
Yeah, I mean, check out, they were doing trade paperbacks of. I think there's a trade paperback of maybe the first arc, which is like issues 1 to 7. But yeah. it's a good series. I was like, and one of the I know that you totally like roll your eyes whenever I talk about the Power Ranger Boom series, but it's actually really good. And I was listening to a podcast of guys that we're hopefully going to try and get on soon-ish as well. They get formerly they were called the Superhero Bar Fight Boys, Tom and Jamie. They've rebranded. They're a member of the US UK podcast network, or the USUC podcast network, but they've rebranded their podcast. It's now called USUC Chronicle.
The USUC podcast.
So it's US UK because it's like
USUC.
yeah, so USUC, but it's like the half of the
branding.
Yeah, well, I like their branding, but like half of the hosts are from America, the US, and half are from the UK. So it's like US UK Chronicles. Their podcast is in during lockdown, a bit like us. They got loads of guests on. Originally, their podcast was just them blethering and having like made up who would win in a fight between this guy and this guy. But their interviews were really good, and like they were starting to get more and more high profile guests. So they've now managed to they've been asked by the US UK network just to do the interviews and not anything else. And they get some really good guests, quite interesting guests actually, including the one that they did one last month where they got remember that old Facebook, that YouTube video about the double rainbow, and somebody like the guy was total going mental about there being two rainbows in the sky, and then there was like folk that made like a music video of it. Like they took the guy going, "Oh my God, there's a double rainbow in the sky," and they turned it into a song. They got those guys in, like these guys whose job it is basically to find viral videos and turn them into songs. So I thought that was a really interesting interview. But anyway, I'm deviating a wee bit. They got the guy who was Zordon in the original Power Rangers last month as well. So like the guy in the tube, like they had him on the show last month, and he was totally. Well, they were asking him about the power, like what the Power Ranger legacy was, and he started talking quite a lot about the Boom comics and saying like the Boom comics are really good if you grew up as a Power Ranger fan, and then because the guys that have originally it's been written by guys who grew up watching the show, but then wanted to talk about the show's quite naive and childish, isn't it? Because it's basically every week it was like, here's a big monster that looks like it was built in a factory using loads and loads of glue and bits of rubber tubing, and then they beat that up, and then next week there was another baddie that had like it was just a big guy in a suit with rubber tubing, and like just looking crap, and like the guys that write the comics have taken that concept and gone, right, actually let's be adults about this, and like what are the very real conflicts that teenagers that are trying to defend the world every week, what would they be going through? What would happen if like different Power Ranger teams had to meet up, or it's just a good show. It's a good comic. Folk need to get past the fact that it's based on a 1992 series of kids in spandex beating like bits of mum's craft cupboard up, and it's a really, really awesome like comic series. I'm not selling this, am I?
On a similar note, I think we did mention that on the Disney Plus at the moment, there's that Marvel documentary series. I think it's called 616. One of the episodes is about the Japanese Spider-Man TV show, which is very Power Ranger-ish.
We did that because it was Batman, wasn't it? When we did that thing last year at the comic convention where it was like all the scenes where like they're climbing up walls are filmed on the floor, like they built. That's all I remember about the really early Spider-Man TV series, was that he climbed very slowly up walls.
Yeah. Well, this is not this. This is the Japanese one.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
But Marvel at the time said no one gets to see this outside of Japan because it's got nothing to do with Spider-Man whatsoever. It's just purely about kind of big robots and monsters, and there's a sort of Spider-Man type character in it.
Here's my wee factoid about that, right? The Ready Player One novel. I don't know if folk have seen the film, but in the Ready Player One novel, instead of like there's a bit in the film where like there's the Iron Giant and Gundam fighting Mecha Godzilla. It's just like
Yeah.
in the book, all the main characters get access to a mech, and the main character Parzival, his mech is the Spider-Man one from that TV series. That was quite cool. So many comments. We never get this many comments on the show. It's so much more. It's so much fun when we have audience interaction. Mark's asking what beer we were going to drink when he's on. We should maybe ask Rob the same question.
I've no idea. We'll have to make an order for the beer shop and pick it up, because they're only doing kind of doorstep pickup at the moment.
Oh, yeah, with they're actually, I think they changed that again. I don't think they're allowed to do pickups anymore. They have to do deliveries because of COVID.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So
because they're a non-essential shop. Apparently, beer's not an essential service.
I don't know what I'm going to get then. No idea. Or see if I can get a delivery from one of the local brewers.
Yeah, we can work it out. We can work it out. But we can speak to Mark as well. It might even be worth getting guests to pick their favorite kind of beer type, and us then like going off and finding a. So like Mark IPA, we can go off and find our favorite IPA.
Mark's kind of in the beer industry, so I don't know how much he'll be able to talk about beer without offending people.
I'm drinking this Polish beer. It's Polish Pilsner, and it's great. It's called First Aid. It's calling itself a first aid beer.
First aid beer.
First aid beer. I don't know.
It'll keep one on me at all times.
I've got a friend that swears by beers in the shower. I wonder if it's similar. David Crana again. Guys, you are vindicating me. Sometimes I talk to Colin about stuff on the show, and Colin's like, "What are you talking about?" But David also remembers the Double Rainbow guy.
I remember the Double Rainbow guy. I didn't know there was a song made out of it.
Oh yeah. Rob is saying that talking about pitching, he was at Thought Bubble 2016 and walking around with a friend of a friend who he'd only just met, whose art blew me away. He's very shy or maybe cautious about showing profile artists. But when he started talking to John Wagner, I said to John, check out this guy's art. John's response was, "Your comic ready." I think we all get a bit unsure about our own art, so I can understand about unwilling to pitch. By the way, I'm not saying who the guy is, but I can't see the bottom of that because of the way that but he ...
We're all in suspense now. No.
Ben is Ben from the 77 saying Happy New Year.
Hey.
Yes, we got. Rob says that we need to check out the Kenny Everett Spider-Man sketches.
All right. I don't recall that. I do remember watching Kenny Everett on the TV. He's whatever Kenny Everett video show or something.
Yeah.
But I don't remember Spider-Man sketches. But hey, I'll check it out.
Mark saying that the Ready Player One movie would have had rights issues. I think there was loads of issues with Ready Player One. I also think Spielberg. There was a weird thing where like Spielberg was really reluctant to put in any of his stuff into, like there was a whole debate around about Ready Player One and the fact that if you read the book, there's loads of references to Steven Spielberg's stuff. But then there was this weird thing where like when he made his own film, he when he was making the Ready Player One film, he was quite keen to omit any of his influences in pop culture. So which was kind of strange. I always found that was like so. And there's a lot of like references to Jurassic Park dinosaurs in the book and stuff that just didn't make it to the film.
Yeah.
Rob's saying it sounds like we go for darker beers, so he's going to have a look, see what he can pick up in Germany. Awesome. And Mark is saying that regarding beer, chuck a funky label on it, make it 6.8% and up the price to over £6 a bottle. Put some marketing on the label, and you'll have a winner. I think there was maybe a wee bit of aggression in that one, Mark. I think you've just sold me a beer, and I know that you were being quite sarcastic there, but actually 6.8% is probably my ideal strength of beer. And if it's got a really funny label on it, I'm more likely to buy it.
Right, just because Rob's message had us in suspense, I've looked it up. But the guy that he spoke to, John Wagner, about, is now working with Pat Mills.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Good. That's really awesome. Oh yeah, I said that. He's there. He's working with Pat Mills now. Mark's saying he kids. And then Rob has given us the Spider-Man link to the Kenny Everett show.
Awesome. Well, we'll check that out.
Cool. Thanks everyone for joining us. If we've got anything else you want to blather about, I feel like that was a really nice first episode. If folk want to join us every week and get involved in the conversation, that's really fun. I don't know if that makes for much of a listening experience, but or a viewing experience, but that was really fun just chatting to folk as we were recording.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great. Yeah, it's nice to have a bit more than just having to speak to Jeff all the time, you know.
I do talk an awful lot of shit.
It's always fucking Power Rangers and Godzilla. Always. Hookjaw.
Hookjaw. You know what I watched the other day, and we don't talk about this film often enough. You ever see the film Dog Soldiers?
Yes.
That was on over the Christmas holidays. That's
I've seen it once.
Oh, it's probably one of my favorite films ever, and it's very comic booky. Like I could see it as like a 2000 AD strip. It's actually like that's just I don't know. I might message Neil Marshall, sorry, and see if I can get him on, because actually I know he directed Hellboy as well. But actually, I think he would be a good guest to just blather about like the comic bookiness of his films. There's a very comic book aspect to what he's doing.
Uh-huh.
Dog Soldiers is like 2000 AD, the movie. You know, like one of those randoms, like Fiends of, what's that called? Fiends of the
Eastern Front.
Eastern Front. It's very much like if like one of those kind of stories was made into film, it would be Dog Soldiers. It's a really I think a lot of his movies like that and Centurion and stuff like that are a very like, oh, this feels very British and very. If this was a comic, it would be put about rebellion. So yeah. Rob's just saying. So yeah, next week we've got Rob Price is going to join us. So he's thanking us for the introduction. You'll get a bigger one next week. And we're going to be drinking dark beers, I believe, next week, Colin.
Okay, I'll go and check something. I'll find something. Yeah, great.
I'm done, but I can choose you with my stunning Caledonian craft beer merchant glass.
I've got Flavour Lake.
Oh, I like the Flavour Lake glasses. The floaty bit at the top, right? Sorry. Cheers, everyone.